Welcome, everyone. My name is Paul Holden, President and CEO at the Burnaby Board of Trade. Before we start with today's event, I just wanted to take a moment to recognise and acknowledge that we're on the traditional homeland of the Hunkaminam and Skohomish-speaking people, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to hold a meeting on this territory. So in today's event, Janice Borsholt, who's the Chief Operating Officer and Senior Recruitment Consultant at AngusOne Staffing, will tackle such topics as hiring staff and the challenges in today's staffing, strategy and goals for growth, developing your job description list, office culture and finding the right fit, and all the tools that you need when it comes to advertisements, job boards, LinkedIn, and agency support. We were just chatting before we opened up the room for everyone to come in, and this is so timely because we're hearing from the vast majority of our members that this is an area that currently is an area that's the biggest challenge and that they need the most help in. This is an initiative, this particular event, of our Centre for Burnaby Business Resilience, which is something that we set up as we were going through in the initial periods of COVID. And now we've got this centre here, which provides our members with the tools that they need to become as resilient and as effective as possible going forward. I'd like to thank our centre partners. You can see their logos on the screen. At the platinum level, we have the BCIT School of Business and Media. We have Douglas College, and we have Electronic Arts. And at the gold level, we have Hemlock Printers, Mitchell Press, Parkland Corporation, Ricoh Canada, Simon Fraser University, and TD Bank. And I'd also at this point like to thank our annual partners. You can see their logos, I think, now. And this is a tremendous group of organisations who really do stand out as top corporate citizens in Burnaby, and they support our work throughout the year. And as I say, you can see their logos now, and we thank them very much for their support. Before we start with our speaker today, I'd like to introduce Peter Seidel, who's a faculty member in the Business Administration Department with BCIT's School of Business and Media, one of our platinum partners today, to say a few words of welcome. So Peter, morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I teach in the BCIT School of Business and Media. In particular, I teach courses in human resource management. One thing that I'm often asked when I come across people either in a cab or in a store somewhere, and they ask me, what do I do? And I say, I teach at BCIT. And they almost always assume I teach in the trades. And believe me, I don't know anything about the trades. If I need anything to trade related, I bring in a professional to handle that. So BCIT does have a trades program that we're very proud of, but we also have nursing, engineering, and business and media. As a matter of fact, the School of Business and Media is one of the largest business media schools in Western Canada. We've got a wide range of programs: digital arts, television production, radio, marketing, financial management, general business, and of course, human resource management. That's the program that I teach into. And BCIT has a whole range of flexible options for students, ranging from if somebody wants to take just one course, perhaps at our downtown campus, or if they want to take several more courses and get a certificate, they can do that in our Flex program, which used to be called Part-Time Studies. And they could go either downtown or the Burnaby campus for that. We also have senior certificates that are take a bit longer than your basic certificate. And of course, in the day program, we have diplomas, a one-year diploma if you already have some preparatory courses, and you can get things done in just one year. Or for those who have no background at all in business or human resources, we've got a 2-year program. And as a matter of fact, just this very week, at the beginning of our spring term, I'm personally supervising 2 groups of students who are working with clients, one in the hospitality industry and one in manufacturing, who have as their challenge, their problem, so to speak, the issue of retention and attraction and retention. That's their big problem. So our students not only get exposed to all areas of business and in particular human resource management, but also they get a chance in the program, if you take the diploma, 1-year or 2-year diploma program, of working with actual clients for a period of 2 months on an actual human resource problem. So we're proud of the fact that we give them not only an academic, but a very practical background. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak about BCIT. I'm very proud to have been associated with it. Thank you for listening to this commercial message.
Thank you, Peter. And interesting to hear what you say about the kind of the work integrated learning experience. That's something we hear a lot from both the schools, all of the schools that we partner with, but also from businesses where they're always looking for ways of getting students engaged in their business, and often on a project basis rather than some of the longer term internships or other forms of engagement such as that. But anyway, thanks, Peter. Appreciate your support. And now we're going to go on to the presentation from Janice. And if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screens. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end to answer the questions as they come in. But I'm pleased today to be joined by Janice Borsholt, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the Chief Operating Officer and Senior Recruitment Consultant of AngusOne Staffing. Janice brings over 25 years of experience in recruitment in the fields of administration, accounting, and facilities support. Her clients include TransLink, Coast Mountain Bus Company, DB Schenker, TD Talks, and Arc'teryx, just to name a few. And Janice lends an energetic and responsive approach to the needs of her clients and candidates. Her success in the recruitment field can be attributed to her passion for finding people rewarding work and her desire to help her clients to achieve their business goals. So, Janice, we're going to hand over to you now for your presentation, and thanks for coming today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. So again, I'm Janice from AngusOne. I've been here for 21 years, and throughout those 21 years, I have seen so many changes in recruitment, as I'm sure that many of you have seen, and post-COVID is a whole new level for sure. I started actually my HR career in the film industry. So at one time, I probably have maybe 4 to 5 running offices that were producing 14 films. So I acted as the membership coordinator and the labor rep. So I was on set a lot, managing the details and the labor problems. And so once I knew more about AngusOne and what we do, I really was I was shocked that I hadn't found an agency to work with in the past. So I'm coming to you with both sides. Entrepreneur, a businesswoman trying to fill positions in offices, and finding people for my clients. So I've seen both sides, and I'm happy to help you with some tips on how I've overcome some of the objectives and obstacles. Now, once I'd started with AngusOne, or once I was asked to join, the first thing I said was agency. Oh my gosh, what is it that you do? Well, you know, we provide staff, both temporary and permanent, for all of the people that Paul mentioned. We are right now working at staffing the TED conferences that are going to be happening in April. So that's a really busy time for us. And we have spent a lot of time on large recruits. So the large ones do have their challenges that are even more extensive than finding single candidates or employees for my business and my clients' businesses. Now, what a lot of my clients don't realize, and many people don't realize, it really is no cost to shop. If you were involved with an agency that backed you up on your recruits, you'd be able to see our candidates, meet our candidates, measure them up against the people that you've met yourself, and there is absolutely no cost to shop with us. What I am hearing from my clients when they do finally come to me after recruiting on their own is that they spent a lot of money in that recruitment cycle. And we have a breakdown in the cost of what it costs just a basic recruit for entry level, and that is $3,500. That's how much you spend in doing advertising, in time spent, which I can break down for you now, but I'm not going to. But if you are a salesperson who's recruiting and you have a manager involved and perhaps another person viewing resumes, your time is of value too. So we calculate that in. Now, when you are hiring, you know, you may get 10 resumes, you may get 30 resumes. Nowadays, you may get, out of the 30 resumes, you may get 4 or 5 people that are well suited to the role that you're recruiting for. You take the time to meet with them, talk to them, maybe bring them back once or twice. And for whatever reason, that person doesn't work out. Number two is number two for a reason and may or may not be available. So you have to go through the whole process again. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had to go through it, and my clients have had to go through it because, post-COVID is very, very different times. Now, there's other things that you have to consider when you are doing your own recruit. Your brand. Be very careful on how you bring people on board. Be very careful how you let people down today, because they have a number of people that they're involved with. They have family, they have friends. Having a bad recruit or having a recruit that didn't go well can reflect badly on your brand, which is why a lot of people do come to AngusOne, because it just takes that step away. The other thing I find with using an agency as opposed to doing it on your own is that element of actuality with the candidate is a lot clearer. For instance, when we're meeting people and there's perhaps 10 people meeting candidates in our company, and they are asking people, what was your favorite part about that job? What was your least favorite part of that job? And they may have a different answer that they're going to give to the agency than they would you, because for whatever reason, they want the job with you and they're going to give you the answer you're looking for. Now, apart from all of that, you want to be set up for the tools of your recruit. I recommend everyone recruit on their own before they come to an agency. The tools that I think are the most important ones that and you realize your office culture. Please don't underestimate the importance of this one factor. It is so important. Your office culture will really dictate the type of candidate that's going to do well, that's going to be successful, that's going to stay. A lot of people feel, and the candidates come to you, it's about the money first, but it's really, truly not. Developing, creating, and making sure that your culture is healthy is going to be your most important asset. Whether it's your company meeting on site or if they're meeting virtually each week, each day, it's super important that there's a connection and they create that connection that works. Now, I think that your job interview, your job descriptions have to incorporate this, so that you're going to attract the right person for the position. Now, before you even enter into this, you have to assess the type of person that you're looking for, the job, the value they bring to your company. Creating a detailed job description is very important, but I also ask my clients to prepare a wish list, because the wish list is going to tell me the attributes that are going to make this person fit within my team. The job descriptions are the duties, the requirements, the education that you're looking for. The attributes are the ones that lend to attitude, people that are going to enjoy working in a team-based environment, people that are going to enjoy working with people that might be more dynamic, inclusive. You want to know whether the attributes are going to have somebody that's going to be compassionate dealing with your clients and your team, or is it someone that needs to be more diplomatic and direct? So all these things need to come into play. You've got your wish list and you've got your job description. Now, along with both of these, you want to take a look at the projection of this role. Now, entry-level reception, administration, when you're bringing people on, that's usually the source of what you're going to choose from when you're moving people up or into other areas in your company. Or are you going to be hiring somebody that comes with that direct experience that you require in a more specialized field? Now, since COVID, things have changed drastically. I have to say that, within our industry, there are very few people returning to work. And I had a very interesting meeting with my team this morning. In fact, we meet every day at 8:30, whether everyone's here or working remotely. We are on an 8:30 call, which I highly recommend everybody does with their staff every day to start the process on the right foot. But I asked some of the millennials why they think that we're not getting the applicants that we used to get prior to COVID. I'm going to say that 98% of our placements right now are new to Canada. 95 to 98%, and that's a very real number, have come to Canada. They're not able to get EI. They're not able to apply for any resources through COVID. So they came to work, and they have been working very, very well for us. So I asked my group, and many are millennials, and I asked them, what are your contemporaries doing? Are they all working? What have they chosen to do post-COVID? And the interesting feedback that I got this morning was that most of their friends do not work. Most of their friends have either been students and then not worked afterwards. Some of them are working family-run businesses where they are taking jobs that require very little of their skill set so that they can enjoy their lives, make a little bit of money, and still work. But they are hoping to eventually one day take over their family business, but they really don't want to get fully immersed into it right now. So I'm talking about 19 to 28-year-olds right now who have found that most of their friends choose to work at Earl's and on a part-time basis because it brings them the social side of being out of the house. It's a fun work environment, and they get to pick and choose when they work. So that was the feedback I got this morning, and I thought that was great feedback considering I'm wondering, where is everybody in Vancouver? When COVID hit, I would say the majority of our working temporary employees and contract employees returned back to the countries they came from, which were Ireland, the UK, Australia, and they've been very slow to return back. We're seeing, the Irish are coming back and they're ready to work, but they also know their value. They've come back to Vancouver and they are not accepting $20 to $25 an hour. They realize that Vancouver is a high cost of living, and they're not interested in working part-time or full-time unless they're making enough money to exist on, and they are getting the jobs. So there's that going on. They also, I would say that our recruitment style has had to change. And I think that if you are recruiting on your own, it has to change as well. Long gone are the days that you come to work and there's 30 to 40 resumes in your inbox, which is where I started 21 years ago. And nowadays we are having to do sifting through resumes. A lot of them are offshore, wanting to come to Canada and wanting someone to sponsor them. I would say that is maybe 10 to 25%. A lot of them are here in Canada, new to Canada, taking courses. And now that the study visas have been allowed to work full time, that would be a majority of our candidates that we're putting out right now for permanent roles, which never happened before. I'm also seeing quite a number of return to work post 55, teaching a couple of courses to an encore program where people have retired or changed their jobs and have come back to the workforce, retrained in computers, technology, in different aspects of work. And believe it or not, they are the ones getting the jobs right now. And I can see why, after meeting them and seeing that they're available, interested, they show up. And they bring value to their roles in mentorship and, full out attitude. Attitude's huge. So looking and recruiting has changed. Obviously, we're not getting those people lined up for jobs. We're not getting the university students for the past 8 years that put their hands up in the summer. They want to relax and enjoy the summer. They don't want to work, and what we've seen is that they are not needing the work or the money. So that's a very real situation as well. As I mentioned earlier, I have been speaking with the grade 11 and 12 students. And we did have quite a number come to us wanting to work in the summer. And we thought, this is the first year ever we are going to give the juniors a chance. We put them into roles where they were doing data entry. We have a temp and training program here where they come and they learn in our office before we place them on site. And they did incredibly well. They were so motivated. They went in, they did their jobs, they typed like the wildfire. So they were very great. I think that giving opportunities to all areas of people have been a real plus for AngusOne. Some of the areas that I've noticed that have changed within our company is our walk-in policy. For years, we relied on resumes. And what I saw was resumes that were not fully outlining a candidate's capabilities. You know, I talk about the one that came in as a mushroom picker, never would have brought them in, but we allow the open door policy where people can come into the office with their resumes between 9 and 3 daily, and they'll be met by a recruiter. And this is the reason I did it. That person that was a mushroom picker did not add the fact that they can type 100 words a minute, that they have worked, volunteered on boards, that they have 3 different software packages that they can use. But, you know, they have experience mushroom picking. They love mushroom picking. They put that in there. And yet I would have people that applied to our company for work that had somebody do up a resume for them that maybe paid $200 to $300 for that resume and didn't have the skill set that the candidate with the mushroom picking had. So we were able to counsel them, show them how to do a resume and do the testing and all of the different registration process that we do that showed that this candidate was so hireable and we wouldn't have known it without bringing that person in. So keeping an open door to candidates that want work has been such a creative change to our recruitment. Also, we have partnered with many schools, many job boards, many clubs, so that we can support their needs for incoming people and also support our clients in filling positions. So many of our candidates that we meet with haven't applied to any job posting that I've put. In fact, because we keep filling our funnel with good candidates, we can usually have resumes on our client's desk before the end of our conversation on the phone. And that's our goal, to be able to have the top talent ready to go. For people that are recruiting on their own, for clients that are recruiting on their own, it is a definite process. You know, never before have I had to reach out to other sources. Never before have I had to send recruiters out onto the street to talk to people, to find people that are looking for work or capable of working that aren't currently working. So yes, post-COVID has changed the whole face of recruitment. Now, you know, as far as the job boards, as far as outside recruitment, we use several different techniques. We have used LinkedIn, which we've had quite a bit of success with, but I'm finding, you know, because our needs are pretty critical and pretty much same day, same week, it's really hard to find people who are currently working that can be placed in positions. So we don't use LinkedIn as much as we use some of our other boards. Because we have so many partners across BC, we send our current jobs out to these partners and they are able to almost recruit on our behalf. So it makes a lot of sense for you if you, depending on your business, connect with another school, another association that has the type of candidates that you're looking for. As far as writing job descriptions and your wish list, creating an enticing job description is super important. You want to reach the type of candidate that's going to work in your dynamics and your culture. So, you know, it's not unusual for us as a team to sit down and go, what's going to attract the right person? Get a couple people into your office that you can talk to about who they'd like to work with, what they'd like to see in the next employee. Yes, I know we need an education level. I know we need this much experience, but what are the attributes that would work on our team to keep our team cohesive, to keep our team successful, to keep working together? So I'll be talking a bit about some of the retention tools that you can use. But right now, I'd like to talk a bit about your interviews. Interviewing is an important aspect of your job. You're going to want to shortlist 5 to 8 people that you have resumes of. Our agency will do that for you and deliver 3 of the top that have already been met with, behavioral based interviewed, have done the testing. We have about 5 or 6 different tests that we do, and we have an on-demand interview where you can actually see the candidate answering 3 questions. Now we have different types of questions that we do submit, so that it depends on the job that you're looking to fill at that time. Now, as doing your own recruit, you'll want to come up with some interview questions that you can ask each of your candidates. Now, you have to be aware that there are a few words and lines that ruin your behavioral interview questions. They are questions that lead the candidate into giving you information on their successes and things that made them, desirable as a candidate. Things like what are your positive attributes and what are your negative? Well, no one's going to give you those. Don't bother even asking that. Let's ask some questions that are going to lead them to answer some important questions that relate to your culture, your work. Things like, what are your short and long-term goals, and how are you preparing to achieve them? What do you see yourself doing in 2 years from now? Why did you apply to this position? Here's a question that I like to ask. What is the biggest mistake you've made professionally? What have you learned from your mistakes? What qualifications do you have that makes you think you'll be successful in this position? What are 2 or 3 professional accomplishments that have given you the most satisfaction, and why? What do you know about our company? What criteria are you using to evaluate the company in which you work for? What did you enjoy most and least about your last position? What is the most significant contribution you've made at your most recent place of work? And I'm turning the page. Do you prefer to work under supervision or on your own? If I were to talk to your former employers at blah company, what would they say about you? Interesting question. The references that you're going to be given for this candidate are not going to be references that are going to give them a bad reference. So I think it's in your best benefit, in your best interest, to take a look at the resume and ask in each area of work, if I talk to this employer, what would they say about you? Why didn't you use this employer as your reference? Get some information, some backing. You want to lead them into giving you some examples of work that may not have been positive and how they overcame it. I have a number of different questions that we could send you. If you're ever interested, I'm happy to provide them to you. Just reach out to me at any time, and I'd be happy to give you some of these printouts on words that would ruin behavioral-based interview questions and commonly asked and difficult to answer interview questions. We have those here. So those are the types of things that you'll want to do in interviews and attracting candidates and recruiting. As far as finding different areas to recruit, we have so many, and that's part of my trade secrets. Happy to help you out there if you ever need that. But I do think that you need to check into, if you're a nonprofit, Charity Village. If you are looking for look for specialized areas of recruit or training areas that you can put your job postings up. You can't just post it online anymore. You've got to reach out that next extra step. I find a lot of my clients that do their own recruiting before they call us, they offer some bonuses to great employees that refer friends that will work as well as they do. Another area I think is a good area to check out. Your own people, references, other companies that you connect with, how they recruit. That's another area you can ask as well. Now, as far as managing staff post-COVID, I think it's trickier and far more hands-on than it's ever been before. You've gone through your recruit, you've retained and you've onboarded a great candidate. They're in training right now. How do you set them up for success? I think this is probably something that every business needs to take a good, strong look at. For one, every single position in your company should have a working job description manual. That job description and manual should be updated on the regular. If you're bringing someone in that's training in any one of those areas, if you don't already have a training manual, make sure that that candidate that you're training, your new employee, is taking notes. At the end of each day, give them a half an hour to type up those notes in the form of job description. Now, it's a very hard thing for people to do, especially if they're being trained in a new job. But you're going to be able to lead them in this area, because while you're training, you're going to be cutting up your training into maybe 3 different areas of training. But you're going to need to do it on the daily, because every day is different and every day requires different duties to be done. So while you're training, if you already have that manual, make sure you've printed a copy of that manual so that your new employee can take notes next to the manual notes. If you haven't got a manual, this is your perfect opportunity to create one. So each day at the end of the day, they can go in and they can spend half an hour typing up the notes that they're going to add to their manual, or update their manual, or create their manual. So they've taken up the notes, they've typed them out in the way that they can understand them. The next morning of training, the first thing that happens is you go through those notes. Are they right? Did they get the gist of what you were telling them? If they haven't, you go over them again. They redo them, they retype them. This becomes page 1 of their desk manual. And if you're ever training again, or for whatever reason this candidate or this employee doesn't work out, you've already got the start point that you can start training with. I encourage my new employees or my new candidates that I place on the job to do this. I also tell them to connect with their supervisor at least once a week, usually towards the end of the week. I want them to go into their supervisor's office and say, what am I doing right? And what am I doing wrong? Is there something I could change, or is there something that I am missing? This opens the doors for communication for both parties. Now, post-COVID, it's not like you can do a review of your employees once a year or once every 6 months. New employees nowadays, the millennials, just new Canadians, they want feedback daily. They want feedback weekly. So you have to be able to set this up so it works for both of you. It's time consuming, but the only way you're going to have success in your role is if you have somebody hands-on. If you don't have the time to do this, cross-training is key. Everybody in your company should be cross-trained in some area so that you're never left without a trainer for a role. If you haven't got the time to do it and you feel comfortable letting someone else do it, set yourself up for success and have somebody else trained and that their manual is up to date. It's a regular thing. So what we've done now is we've created a how-to, a go-to. If things aren't happening, if things are being missed, if things aren't happening or being observed the way you've told them in the beginning, let's go back to page 1 and just review this area. This allows, again, you to re-instill every aspect of the job. Now, when you're talking about formal reviews, they are definitely important every 6 months to 1 year. But what happens with reviews is that when there's a review done, your employee is expecting a raise. Now, raises. Post-COVID, my clients, they're the same as the candidates that are coming to us. You know, you're taking a little less now because our clients have had to suffer through, and they're not being able to pay the same, price point or salary that they did pre-COVID. But the people that are looking for work now, they're looking for more. So this is an ongoing question. How do we deal with situations like that? Now, I feel that, retaining candidates, or I call them candidates, and retaining employees, again, it's not always about the money. The culture does come first, but money plays a very important role. Now, a lot of my clients through COVID and now, because they're struggling so much to find good employees, are offering signing bonuses. Now, have you got a step process for this job? Do you know how much you're going to end up paying at the end of the day? Are you looking at creative hires, and will that cost you more, or can you bring someone in a little less and offer bonuses for retention? I personally changed the way I retained my own staff. And instead of giving commissions per the jobs that they were doing, I moved to a model where our recruiters and our staff here are salaried and bonus as a team. It made a big difference. The competition between employees has completely gone. I found a team that wants to work together, that wants to help each other be successful, that actually are producing. And it's because they love working together. They love what they're doing. I'm offering them little perks that don't cost anything, like Milkshake Monday. We're talking about, we have a yoga instructor once a month. We have a hairdresser that comes in and spends the day cutting and doing hair at $30. It's because the hairdresser is making money by coming in and working all day, and they're enjoying the environment too. We've got that happening. Little things like that allow them to socialize together while all working on site has made a big difference. They've grown together in ways that I have really benefited from. And here's the other thing. I am changing my style of recruit for my own office. I'm talking to my clients about changing their style, and we've moved to a more creative hiring technique. And rather than looking at the job description and the attribute list, the wish list, we're starting to look at people that have some of the assets that we don't already have. For instance, after COVID, we don't have the hands-on marketing person that we used to have. So it's part of all of our jobs to do social media. I'm sorry, but I am in my 60s and social media isn't part of my life. So I know where I need a little bit of assistance. And yes, I post, but I had to be trained fully and probably overseen. So, I know that the next person I hire, I want to see the social media skill set in their resume. I want to hear about the type of social media blogging they do and how their background and their interest and passion can bring value to my team. So normally I'd be looking for 1 to 2 years of recruitment and post-secondary education and perhaps experience in another agency. Not anymore. I'm looking for a personality type. I'm looking for somebody who's going to work with this team. I'm looking for someone who's going to take that duty and answer the extra question at the end. I want the A types that like to be together, like to work together, like to support each other. I've had A types in here that were super achievers, that were fantastic, but because they didn't work well with the rest of the team, they caused more damage than they did good. Yes, they were super successful in what they did. Yes, the clients loved them. Absolutely, the clients couldn't get enough of them. But because the rest of the team couldn't work with them, it caused so many problems on so many other sides that it was better that this person didn't work here. So that's a huge decision to make, to take a super achiever out of the mix because they didn't get along with the culture or the rest of the team. These are things that you have to decide as a company what works and what doesn't work. So managing a whole group of dynamic people, different, but together they work, has been a challenge. I find that each and every single person has to be managed differently, and it's up to me as a manager to find out how they want to be managed. Do you want me to be looking over your shoulder and helping you? Do you want me to just talk with you that once a week and discuss what you're doing right or wrong, which means overseeing from another end? Big Brother's watching. We can see who's working. We can see what they're doing. I choose to not do that with my staff because they're entrepreneurial and they each run their desk with their own personalities, which I support and I encourage. I think that if you are looking at doing creative hiring, I think you're going to find a lot more success and longevity in your staff. So I think that the key to retaining is having somebody that is finding their passion being used on the job, finding someone that enjoys working with people that they work with, that shares their values, shares their goals, that wants to work, that wants to be here. You know, I've had people that show up 10 minutes late and it affects the whole team. Doesn't matter if they're the greatest ever. We're all here at 8:30, we're meeting, and this is our start point, and we're all expected to be here. Now, expectations have to be clear up front, KPIs, the basics, the attainable, the achievable. Everybody has to do 15 interviews a week. Everybody has to do this, that, the next thing. Everybody has to prepare their job descriptions and post every single thing that comes through. Every single person has to add to the social media at some point. Every single person at one time has to plan a team building activity. So, you know, this culture is everybody's business. So it's all incorporated into the KPIs up front. The expectations are there. There are no excuses. You have to do this. If you don't, you're going to get talked to. You know, nobody gets talked to. Everybody's trying their hardest right now. So as long as you make sure that the KPIs are achievable, attainable, and that everybody's doing it, I think you're going to have a lot of success. You know, another thing that I hear from people is like, I didn't know what my expectations were. I didn't know. So, you know, the expectations need to be included. These KPIs need to be included in that training right up front and in their manuals. And if they change, they need to be changed. Everyone needs to know about it. Now, you know, new employees do need to be welcomed. They need to be brought in and onboarded properly. You know, I find that having everybody sit down and have lunch together when a new person joins the team, I think that's really good for their team, finding out what they're all about outside of work, within the work and safe environment. You know, if you are working remotely, I think it's a great idea to have team building games. Match the baby picture to the employee. I don't know what you want to do, but you need to create a zone online where all the people in your company can connect. Now, some people, because of, you know, COVID, you have hybrid roles, some people working from home, some people working on site, everybody working on site, everybody working remotely. It doesn't really matter. There has to be a culture created somehow, and that's up to you and the people that you hire. So it's super important that that happens. So finally, I think that, you know, I touched on the retention, on signing bonuses, on commissions, retention bonuses. If you stay a year, you're going to get $3,000. How, you know, you build that into that salary at the very beginning. You know, loyalty means something to me. I'm hiring you because I feel like you're going to be a loyal employee. And the way I'm going to reimburse you for that is after you work so long, you will get an extra $2,000, right? You may get a raise. You know, it depends on what you want to do. Some companies that we work with, they offer RSP matching after a year. Some of them offer expenses towards their fitness after a year. Some people offer shares after a year. You know, find a way that you can offer a perk that is not too expensive, but gets people interested. I know my team likes to do charity work. So once every 2 months, we pick a charity. We go serve lunches. We put together backpacks for the homeless children. We get together and do bowling for Big Brothers. Whatever it is, it makes them feel like they're giving back. It makes our whole culture feel like we're doing something of value. So we add that into our sort of retention activity. Being connected and ensuring your office culture and your people are happy. If they're not, it's you that needs to know it. You need to hear it. And trust me, it doesn't work when you talk to other employees about the other employees. That's never going to work. It's never going to work anymore. You have to have a relationship with this candidate, with this employee, or you have to have a buddy that does. So, you know, it's up to you how you want to work that. But I do believe that if you want to attract, retain, and have a great, successful office culture, all of it works hand in hand. So, you know, I think that pretty much covers everything I have. And, you know, I am here at AngusOne. If you have any questions, or if you want to talk to me about some techniques or get some help on these questions, I'm happy to help. For sure, I'm happy to help. We offer temporary temp to perm, permanent and executive search here. I practice what I preach. I bring people on hourly for the first 3 months. I want to know that you're happy with me. I want to know that you're happy here. So I start a temp to perm, which is what I sell. What I do is my clients come to me and they want a permanent candidate. And I offer the option. You can either have a permanent placement, which means that you pay a little bit up front, then you pay the candidate. Or you can do temp to perm, which honestly, if you are an employer and you're trying to secure a great office staff, you need a good agency in your back pocket because it's so cost effective. And if you need a replacement, it's done. So, people come to us, oh, we need a temp to perm administrative project coordinator for our elevator team. I will find them 3 of the top candidates. They get to interview them all, see their test scores. They pick one. I put them on my payroll for 3 months, or 450 hours is our rollover. And they work for AngusOne for the first 450 hours. So while they're there, I'm their boss. And you, as the employer, call me up and say, Janice, Susie just wore a tube top to work. It's not your problem, it's mine. I go in, I talk to my candidate, I give them reviews, I give them information, I give them any type of problem you have a problem with that you don't want to deal with, I deal with. I set you up for success, and I also set up that candidate. It works. It's also really cost effective because if you're hiring somebody, where's my calculator, and you're paying $25 an hour, your actual cost to hire that person is probably $32 an hour with their EI, WCB, all of that in. AngusOne can almost match that. So you're probably paying a little bit of an admin fee to us and a finder's fee within that hourly. So say we had somebody coming in, your cost per hour would be $33.60 an hour. So that's $1.60 an hour for 450 hours. That is not expensive for a recruit. That is so cost efficient. Now, what happens after 20 days when that candidate doesn't work out? Janice, they came in, they kicked our worker dog. They don't get along with Susie Q. They aren't able to follow direction. They were great for the first month, but after that, things fell apart and they weren't coming in on time. I'm going to pull that candidate out of your location and replace them, and you get to use both candidates' hours for that 450 rollover. So that's why a lot of people use AngusOne, because we're the only agency that has that no cost rollover. And I think that it's a great opportunity for you to test drive your product before hiring them. It's a great opportunity for the candidate to work with you to see if the fit's there before they take that offer at the end of the 60 working days. So that's kind of how we work. And if you're interested in hearing more about it, I'm happy to help at any time. So I'd like to thank you so much for listening to me. And this is kind of a coffee table, coffee style talk. This is how I do my classes. I'd love to hear your feedback as to whether you prefer this type of a webinar or whether you'd like to see some slides or some video content as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janice. Excellent. Some great tips there and some really good information that you shared with us. Just as a reminder to everybody, if you wanted to pop any questions in the Q&A, feel free to do that. I was just going to ask you something about the job description and a job posting. And I know that you mentioned about how often, let's say for every 20 applicants that you get, maybe a handful might be relevant. Any tips on what you can do within a job posting or a job description, to make sure that you kind of minimize the people that are not relevant for the position, but that you maximize the people who are as well? Because we hear a lot about making sure the job description and the posting really reflect the fact that you're an employer who's inclusive and welcoming, and it genuinely is a posting that's meant for everyone.
Well, interesting. I've looked at so many job posting because I'm always trying to measure up what are we doing opposed to what other people are doing and what works and what doesn't work. I think that your job posting has to attract the type of person that you want. So that reflects back to the culture of your office. I like starting lines out that you would possess or you have, so it speaks to that person directly. Creative job posts, difficult to fill positions. We filled, I think, 90 corporate courier drivers during COVID because of the deliveries required during COVID. It was very difficult to attract people that wanted to drive. So we started out with the regular job description. Weren't getting any interest until we changed it to Santa needs some helpers. That caught people's eyes. That was different than a driver. So I think that if you're doing job postings, you're going to have something that makes people want to read it and apply. People that have the suitable backgrounds. You're always going to get people applying to every job they see, though, Paul, unfortunately.
No, I don't. I think you're right there. Over the years, heard different views about when people applied, the importance of there being a cover letter. Some people say it doesn't matter at all. Some people say, well, if someone hasn't bothered to do a tailored cover letter, then maybe they haven't got enough interest in the position. What do you think?
Well, that's a really great question. And that's one of the ones that I do when I'm teaching schools. If you're going through an agency, do not send a cover letter. Anything that you need to say in that cover letter better be in your resume, because myself, I don't have time to read cover letters. I would assume that most of the people that are interviewing in your company are reviewing resumes as well and may or may not read that cover letter. Cover letters are super important when you're applying on your own, but not when you're going through an agency.
Right.
If you have valid information in that cover letter, needs to be spoken to in that resume as well.
Yeah, interesting. Getting back to sort of interview questions that you mentioned earlier, some great ideas you had for questions there. Perhaps you could clarify for us. I know that your rules are changing around what you can and can't ask in terms of either salary history or expectations. Could you kind of clarify where we are right now on that?
Well, again, agencies have a whole different position on this than direct people interviewing. The PIPA, Privacy Act, will not allow you to check references unless you've got written approval from the candidate. Very important to know that, because if you do end up calling a company that you haven't been specifically told you can create a court case for you. People are not going to give you references that are going to give bad ones. So that's why during the questioning of that candidate, asking, what if I did call this person and why hasn't this person been put on your reference list? That's going to draw out more information. Now, as far as asking what they were paid in different jobs, we ask. We still ask them, but it's exposed upfront to the candidate that all the information they give AngusOne is confidential. And it's used to find them the job that they're well suited to, that pays what they're looking for, as opposed to it's directly for this position.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Just checking to see if there's any other questions, which I'm not. There's something just came on. Yeah. So somebody, Peter, just asked a question. Do you recommend the use of personality or general cognitive ability tests to evaluate candidates?
We have done them in the past for clients that request us to do it for recruits. We do not use them. The feedback has been that they aren't as successful for us as they were perceived to be at the beginning. So no, and it would depend on the test too. It really does.
Yeah, I've seen some of those where you get that kind of, you're able to pull the information from someone's resume or whatever, and you get that sort of graph on which quadrant somebody might be in terms of their personality type and their strengths, etc. But I don't know how effective those kind of things would be.
It's a tough one. For the last few years, a lot of my clients have hired more senior and had them not stay because they've moved on to something more senior. So, I mean, if you're hiring juniors, really stick within that. Find people that are going to want to stay and grow within the role.
And just one other thing, I know that you mentioned a lot of things that you would want an employer to do, if you like, almost onboarding the employee when they join, daily check-ins, having those reviews of job description, etc. I suppose you might hear from some smaller businesses, well, we just don't have the time to do that. You know, the sometimes it's the CEO or someone like that who's also taking care of all the HR areas, and so how do you kind of advise people when they say, well, great ideas, but I'm not sure we have the time?
Well, if you don't have the time to check in with these new hires, chances are they're going to be giving you their notice and you won't know why.
Yeah.
So if you want to have employees, you're going to have somebody that's going to do that.
So make the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks a lot, Janice. We really appreciate catching up with you again and seeing you here today. That was a great session on such an important subject right now. So thanks again.